Welcome to the Big Biz Show. Taking care of business. You want fast-talking, hard-hitting discussions on business and finance? Maybe with a barroom slant and some really salty peanuts? We're not counting calories. We're counting cash. Before we get to the man with the financial plan, meet the money team. Costa, Mary, and Greg. Now Captain Finance himself, Sully.
From the Lock 100 studios in sunny Southern California. Hope everyone's having a great day. It is the Big Biz Show, wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. And a big old howdy to you, Costa, Mary, Godwin, and of course, Sully.
Speaking of howdy to you.
Yeah.
Somebody went to Orvis.
I did. Well, it's that.
Do you know what Orvis is?
I have no idea.
Orvis is a catalog that looks like a Dinty Moore stew can or a Brawny paper towel can.
Yes.
And in fact, Chris Castillo can probably pull up the Brawny paper towel guy or the Dinty Moore stew guy.
Oh, Dinty Moore stew.
Orvis wills fall to start about February of every year.
Okay.
And they send catalogs. Remember the old days catalogs? And one of those catalogs, it's sort of a bathroom reader, isn't it, Mike?
1,000%.
It's sort of a bathroom reader.
The Orvis one in particular?
Like, Mike has his old 1965 copy of Jokes for the John, and then right next to it, he's got his Orvis catalog, and then his wife has the Restoration Hardware phone book.
Wow.
There, see, look at that.
Sully apparently has been in our house.
Does that look like Mike Costa or what? See? That is fantastic.
Orvis is outdoors. They have a lot of great pet stuff, and they were the first ones to do.
Is that for the pet bear?
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, you don't need a 7X anymore.
I know.
Okay.
You lose weight. You're shrinking.
Well, but you look like the guy that was in you look like John Goodman in the early Roseanne days when you're wearing a shirt that's 7 times too big for you. You know, I mean, how about stuffing 10 pounds of, in a 5-pound bag every once in a while? Maybe you look a little thinner.
My wife the other day said, "You look like the kid at the end of Big."
Oh, yeah.
I know, because you're getting in shape. Plus, with what we're doing with Vivos and the OSA thing, you're going to be smaller.
Yeah.
So I've got a friend who owns. You've seen Andy White, who owns Ascot.
Oh, great store.
I was with Andy over the weekend for a minute. And I took him to the basketball game last night.
Oh, okay.
And he said Mike Costa may or may not have been shopping this weekend.
Ooh.
I don't ask.
Wait,
it just comes to me.
Oh, the Clippers.
Yeah, nailed it.
Basketball game, did you say?
Oh my God, Mary.
The Clippers at the new arena, right?
What quarter is it? Glad we're going to England next. Put another shrimp on the barbie.
How many touchdowns did they score in the basketball game?
It is the San Diego State Aztecs.
Oh, those
playing
guys.
the Zags.
But
Gonzaga.
we have the new arena in Oceanside, and the guy was sitting here on our show talking about
Front
the
Wave
Clippers.
Arena.
I know my sports.
But
Simmer down.
the Clippers
Or in LA
play
still.
in the new arena.
In the new.
Up in Inglewood.
In the
Oh,
new
so who
up
won?
in LA. Zags won. You know the very first thing I ever did in radio in my life?
What?
I got asked to be on the radio. I did it. I was a guest on the radio. After a while, they said, "Do you want to try to do a radio program?" I said, "Yes." We called it the Big Ass Biz Show. But it was a talk show. I got afternoon drive. I went from not being on the radio 6 months later, afternoon drive on the KSDO right here in San Diego.
Absolutely.
Big station.
Yeah.
Very first thing I did, because it was March Madness at the time, and somebody called up and said, "I don't look at the stocks. I'm too busy watching Gonzaga play."
Oh.
I said, "Wait a minute." We called Gonzaga University in Spokane, Washington.
Is it Gonzaga?
And the receptionist answers, "Is it Gonzaga?" You're live on the radio. "Is it Gonzaga or Gonzaga?" Very first bit. Gonzaga.
Emphatically Gonzaga. Yeah.
Okay, that I didn't know.
Is it Nevada or Nevada?
Is it Spokane or Spokane?
Spokane.
Coming up on the break, hopefully Greg Todoroff will show up after his very long bachelor party last night.
Yeah.
For his, no, he wasn't at the bachelor party. He was stuck in traffic. And also, we got Howie Font, our lead analyst.
Love that guy.
On a big show for you today. Lots of good stuff. And, Mike, maybe it's good that you wore the sweats and the big shirt.
Okay.
I got one word for you. Barbecue.
Ooh. Oh, that's happening today.
It's happening today.
Yes.
So much barbecue in this house.
The band just lit up.
Yeah,
Did you see that?
Greatest day ever.
Big Biz Show. See you in a minute.
from the Locked on Hooded Studios. Hope everybody is having a great day. It's one of those SOS type of shows. I'll tell you what that means in a second. Costumer, Godwin, and Sully. And I'd be remiss if I didn't point out the greatest in the business, the DTT.
Hey.
With their culinary expertise. We were talking during the break, Sul, about what a lot of people ate in the armed forces, and still some people eat today. SOS.
Yeah. By the way, just to back up for a second, is Orvis we lost the mic somehow?
Is Orvis still?
Oh, I literally lost my mic.
It's gone.
It's right here. See if you can catch me when I'm talking.
Yeah, I can hear you. If any questions about Orvis, I'm happy to answer.
Was Orvis the catalog that drew the pictures of the clothing?
No, that was Jay Peter. That's Jay Peter. Jay
Peterman from.
Well, the catalog that they spoofed that off
Jay
of.
Peterman was
Seinfeld.
Oh, that was Jay Peterman.
But that catalog was the ones.
Was that Land's End?
No, Land's End didn't draw. LL Bean didn't draw.
You sure it wasn't Orvis?
No, it wasn't Orvis. It's.
Oh, you know. I know my Orvis.
It came.
I've never even heard of it.
No, the catalog that drew literally came in this form. It was a long kind of white piece of parchment, and every single item had been hand drawn.
Mike, that's called a stock certificate. You're confusing your document.
I knew. I hit my head.
Speaking of stock certificates, look, Howie Font is here. He comes from New York City.
Did you guys?
Oh wow!
Oh yeah.
Holy smokes.
Something's happening here. Woo! They're great. Howie's like,
Hey, I hadn't seen that before. Production quality is high today.
okay. Great to have you, Howard Font. So the market is showing some weakness today after Ukraine used 6 U.S.-made long-range missiles
Oh, what could go wrong?
to strike inside of Russia. Listen, we knew this was going to happen. We gave him ammunition. He asked for it.
Yep.
So we got a transition period going on, and I think, Howie, the headline news here is that if you don't think we're in a global economy, look no further than what's happening today. Right?
And what event could be more global than nuclear war? I mean, that's kind of what the market is being forced to price in a little bit here.
Oh my God!
It's shrugged it off. To be fair, there's so much to be bullish about. We've talked about it on the previous shows. That the market has kind of recovered and is at par, but it is interesting that what breaks the election rally.
Yeah, because the market hasn't been down since the election, right?
Right. This was the first down open, and it's because you do have to say, if Russia's redoing its nuclear policy, which they did after this attack, and now we have, an escalation in this period, it means it's one of the most dangerous transition periods that have ever taken place, and.
Hey, Howie,
that has to be reflected.
Howie, hold on. I'm getting a news feed here.
Uh-oh.
Oh, it's Greg Todoroff just walked in the building.
Oh my God! Oh my God! There we go. Thank you. All right, back to Howie Font. Greg We can start the show now.
Greg apparently has his own walk-on music now.
Ahoy, Polloy.
Rolls in the deal. So Howard, not to interrupt you here, but the market is down for the first time since the election, along with oil and gold seeking new highs. Now, obviously, gold is thought of a hedge against inflation, but I'm going to give you a couple stocks here. GLD is an exchange-traded fund and a stock. IAU is a gold exchange-traded fund. Trades like a stock. The oil, USO, exchange-traded fund oil. Howie, since the trend is your friend, would this be the time to talk about shorting some commodity-type stocks, or is this the time to double down on these stocks because we've got some global interference going on?
Well, gold and oil have different seasonality than maybe the rest of the economy, but gold is on a general uptrend. Goldman Sachs just put out a price target, putting it at $3,000 sometime in 2025, which I don't know if you guys know this, we're almost in 2025. We're currently trading at like $26,000. But I wanted to just check in with Greg. Pro, con nuclear war? Do you have any opinion? A pop quiz for the class? No.
I'll pass. I'll pass on that.
Here's my vote.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Launch.
No, that's the last
And
thing
then-
we need.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Getting a look.
Very.
Nuclear winter.
Yes. Do you have an opinion on Ukraine and Russia, as in terms of? I mean, Russia. It'd be like us taking over Mexico.
Yes.
They were once called California.
Yep.
Now they're called Baja California. We're bringing California back, and then all of a sudden you got, right?
Yep.
That was just literally what's happened.
Yeah.
Okay. And a country that has no chance or had no chance to defend itself until the Allies came together.
Yeah.
And nobody wants nuclear war, but at some point, Ukraine has a right to answer back in any way they see fit, as long
Right.
as it follows through the Geneva Convention and UN guidelines. Correct?
Yep.
Howie, what's the take on this thing, and how does this all weave into the economy?
Yeah, I think you're right on the rights part, on what they're morally allowed to do. I think the market is looking more at the consequences of what that action would be. So now that we have, a looser proxy war between U.S.-made long-range missiles hitting Russian soil, how would we feel about that? It's for them, they don't really have that much of a response except for the nuclear threat. So that's why things are getting a little unduly hot.
So I think the question has got to be: is the Ukraine conflict with Russia priced into the market already?
It seems to have. It seemed to have been shrugged off by the market today. We started down for the first time, like we've been saying since the election, and we've now broken back to par. It's a pretty anemic day in the market, but that's okay. One thing that might be helpful for context is a market inflow, is when you have more money coming into the market than going out.
Yep.
The market has only had inflows 9 days in a row 4 times before. We just went through a 9-day period. So there's a lot of exuberance.
What's interesting here is there's a thing called technical analysis, or reading charts, that when you look at a stock, you can tell with some degree of certainty, because the emotions of the market run the market. Okay, I mean, the market runs on 2 emotions: fear and greed. Even institutionally, it runs on fear and greed, but oftentimes way ahead of when we get the news. And there was a man called Elliot, I forget his first name, but he created the Elliott wave principle back in the 1920s. Basically, he noticed patterns of crowds of people when certain things happened. And he was able to graph those reactions on a point and figure chart, and realize that you could almost predict the next thing is going to happen with a crowd based upon what they did last time. Here's a great example of this. If you bought a stock at $100, okay, and you used your last nickel to buy it, okay, and it dropped down to $80, okay, you probably don't want to sell at 80 because you just lost $20. It was all the money you had. But what do you think you're going to do when it hits back 100 again? So stock is $100, drops to 80, goes back to 100. What do you think most people are going to do? They're going to sell it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's technical analysis. That's predictive technology. If you use what's called a moving average convergence divergence, an MACD indicator on technical analysis, it'll tell you a short-term moving average and a long-term moving average. When both moving averages are going in the right direction, okay, the trend is your friend. Whether it's up or down. If oil's doing down, short-term, long-term, right, you can almost predict when it's going to happen. When one of those lines crosses over the other, okay, let's say a short-term line crosses over a long-term line. Now you have an inflection point. And it's actually called a death cross when you look at a chart. And it'll tell you if a company is where a stock's going to go. Now there's another indicator called a stochastic oscillator, and it'll tell you if something is too expensive for a recent time period. So now, all of a sudden, if bread goes up, you normally pay $2 for a loaf of bread. The supply chain for flour gets blown up, and now bread is $5, okay? That would be an overbought indicator, okay? The price is too high for its normal price range. Howie, I predict that the market was a little overbought, a little high for its trading range. Would you agree with that?
No, that's exactly right. I mean, these things are going to balance themselves out. It doesn't necessarily mean that, the price of bread doesn't collapse to 10 cents, but it does come back down to, like you said, its mean. It reverts to closer to its average price over time.
Does it come all the way down to 2, though? If
Sometimes
it doesn't.
Now, and it's interesting you say that, because there is something called a Fibonacci retracement. Fibonacci is a series of numbers.
The sequence.
Goes like this: 1, 3, 4, 7, 12. See what I'm doing here?
Yeah.
1 plus 3 is 4, plus 3 is 7, plus 4 is 11.
Okay.
Right? So you take the previous number and add it. That's a Fibonacci sequence. It's also mathematically what creates a shell. Okay?
Ooh.
Fibonacci is seen in nature. This is a Fibonacci retracement. 66 and 33 is a Fibonacci number. You can retrace stocks back down 33% if the stock's going up and you didn't get in. If it goes down 33%, it's a good entry point. But if it breaks through, it's going down to 60 something. This is all predictive technology based upon the fact that we're fish.
Howie, I know there's certain financial information we really can't talk about, but what's a good company for like lead-lined underwear or iodine? I think there's going to be a boom.
I don't know about that, but you can buy uranium in an ETF. I think that's possible. You want to go the other way.
See you tomorrow, Howie Font, our big biz. Coming up. I have no idea. It's gonna be good.
I don't think I got it.
Wherever you are watching or listening, we appreciate you being along for this crazy ride. In some parts of the world, it's known as the Large Financial Program, but most of the world knows it as the Big Biz Show. The Loft 100 Studios.
That's on Mike's podcast.
It is. Costa Mary Godwin, Greg Todorov, and of course, Sully.
That's right.
Are you all right? You almost asphyxiated during the
He told me a
break.
joke while I was mid-sip, and I just almost spit out red V8 juice all over the table. So
Do you know what I love about Mary?
Almost
A million little
accomplished.
things. Mary's been with me for a long
Million
time.
little things.
A million little things. But the fact that there's not a single woman on the earth that would drink V8 juice. She loves V8 juice. If I'm on a plane, bring me some damn V8 juice. And don't, no Bloody Mary mix. Give me a V8.
You don't want
It's
Mr. T?
nutritious and delicious.
my mom had it in the house always growing up. So
did my grandma.
It would be a special treat.
Totally. Could have had one.
Tab.
Could I have a V8? But I do drink green juice at the same time.
Oh, there you go. Wait, what do you drink?
Green juice and that.
Oh, I thought you said beet juice.
Oh, beet juice is good.
Beet juice is fantastic. Ask Dr. Jonathan Javitt.
Oh my God.
Founder, director, chairman of the board, CEO
Having a
of
moment,
course,
I'm
NRX Pharmaceuticals. NRX Pharma, stock symbol is NRXP. He's been on the program several times. I consider him a friend. He's also a client, and he's also a disruptor. And a number of things happening. It's time to catch up because he's going to be back on the air on a regular basis again with us. And I give you Dr. Jonathan Javitt. Dr. Javitt, great to see you again, my friend.
It's wonderful to see you, Sully.
Hey, let's talk. Can you give us an overview of NRX? But I also want to talk about Hope at the same time, Hope Therapeutics. I'll let you take the floor on that.
So, we started this path developing 2 drugs to treat suicidal depression. One is a derivative of ketamine that will, at least from all the clinical trials data, decrease suicidality very quickly, within a matter of hours. But it's not a drug you can really take long term. And the other is NRX 101, which is a drug that you can take home, safely by mouth, and probably take for years at a time if you need to. But in the process, we realized that the whole system of care for treating people with suicidality is just plain broken. Going to a hospital emergency room, winding up in an inpatient facility is probably everybody's last choice. And yet, on the other end of the spectrum, you've got these ketamine clinics in shopping malls that are doing ketamine on Mondays and vitamin drips on Tuesdays, and not providing any kind of comprehensive alternative. So the objective of Hope Therapeutics is to build really a system of precision psychiatry clinics across the country that are able to augment ketamine with transcranial magnetic stimulation with other modalities that are shown to be effective in treating suicidal depression, to give people a place to go where they know they're going to be taken care of and taken care of properly.
I think the interesting part of this thing is, you said it the very first time we had you on the air, it's not like the silent killer, like, let's say, obstructive sleep apnea is, but it is the killer as evidenced by suicide, but it is the undiagnosed killer. And I think part of this is you've talked about this a number of times about the kind of the key indicators, and you guys are going right down the barrel of these things, no pun intended, along with the clinics and the drug. And I think it was a smart move on your part to sort of bifurcate the two things. And here comes Hope Therapeutics, correct? Is that sort of the idea?
Well, ultimately, Hope is going to be a care delivery company, and it wouldn't surprise me if NRX continues to own a large share of it, but we expect that others will come in and join Hope and become owners in Hope, and it will have its own life, whereas NRX will continue to be a CNS-focused drug development company. In fact, right now we're looking at an early stage drug that may be the game changer for schizophrenia.
Wow.
So, NRX will continue to be a drug development company. If you want to understand Hope's future, look at what DaVita did for treating chronic renal disease and people on dialysis.
Dr. Javitt, as far as the overall arcing, 30,000-foot view of the suicide picture in the United States, does our government do enough, in your estimation, your opinion, or do we address it enough? Are they doing enough right now to really try to chip away at this epidemic?
Well, not nearly enough. I mean, the CDC is certainly telling the story as it is, that at least 3.8 million Americans make a plan to kill themselves every year.
Oh, God.
They say that about 50,000 people actually do it, but it's probably much more than that, because many deaths that are indeed suicide are not labeled as such. But even with the mislabeling, the CDC is telling us that an American kills himself or herself every 11 minutes.
Wow.
When you say, are we doing enough? Until a year or two ago, other than electroshock therapy,
Yeah.
and other than confining people to a psychiatric hospital, we really had very little to do. Just talking to people doesn't change the chemistry in the brain that leads people to commit suicide. So these therapies that are being shown to be effective in reducing suicidal ideation are brand new therapies. We're watching the world shift under our feet.
Jonathan, let's talk a little bit about PTSD, because it's something you brought up in the very beginning, and I know you have experience with that. We're a military town in San Diego here, where we broadcast from. We're obviously on American Forces Network in 175 countries and all the ships at sea. We always get a lot of email after you get on the phone. You've had breakthrough research and targeting regarding PTSD. Can you talk about that a little bit, and how we're doing, and how this could change that landscape?
So our immediate objective is to get our lead drugs approved for treating suicidality and depression. And clearly PTSD is coming. It's a slightly less well understood disease. It's harder to measure, but it's a lethal disease, as everybody in a military town knows.
In your opinion, is there light at the end of the tunnel here sooner than later because of some of the therapies you're doing, or is this going to be a long road either way?
I think that not only is there light at the end of the tunnel, but I think of a tunnel as sort of a long thing with light far away. I'd say dawn is breaking.
Oh, that's good. Jonathan, before we let you out of here, as the CEO of a publicly traded company, once again, NRX Pharma, NRXP is the stock symbol, NRX Pharmaceuticals. Talk about what you're looking forward to most in 2025, other than coming out here on a regular basis and us hanging out a little bit.
Well, coming out there to see you is always a pleasure, but what we're looking forward to, what we told our investors last night in our quarterly call, is having 2 drugs in the FDA in 2025, hopefully getting both of them approved, having the first Hope clinics up and running, and really changing the trajectory, changing the future for people with suicidal depression.
Dr. Javitt, always great to hear you. Always great to hear what you're doing to address this horrible thing we deal with in our country and our world in general. Dr. Jonathan Javitt, NRX Pharmaceuticals, NRXP, the ticker symbol. We will talk to you again soon, and we will do much more after this on the Big Biz Show. in over 175 countries and all the ships at sea on the American Forces Network. As always, to the brave men and women of our United States Armed Forces, we salute you from the Big Biz Show inside the Locked 100 studios today. I'm Costa, Maribor Godwin, that's Greg Todorov right there, and of course, Sully.
No, just keep going.
We have ourselves a jam session.
Oh, no. Oh, when they missed the cue, I just like
Only
this.
85 bars too long. Just keep going. We're having a great time.
I didn't know you brought in the Grateful Dead.
The Day Trader Trio, ladies and gentlemen.
Grace is grooving.
Great poll, Greg.
You know what happened? This is what happened. Everybody in this entire studio is off because we found out that Kendrick, the joint barbecue guy, is coming in.
Yeah. That's what Trace is thinking.
Did you guys know that? Of course you do. See, the whole place is messed up. You get a little bit of food in this place, especially if it's Kendrick's barbecue.
Yeah.
This is like the barbecue you see like on Food Network barbecue.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Good stuff.
he he uses words like shank.
Yeah.
And
low
tri-tip and low and slow and rub. What are you talking about?
Wait a minute.
You talking about
barbecue?
Such pigs, huh, Mary? Just pigs. Pigs.
He's bringing pork, too?
You realize that Wall
I'm
Street...
the only female in here still.
And he's also bringing food.
Oh,
Yeah, everybody.
try the clams.
Okay. Yes, the Wall Street Journal called us Business with a Barroom Slant about 15 years ago. We're at 125 million TV homes daily in this country, as well as American Forces Network on radio. And of course, let's not forget Bloomberg internationally. But one of our favorite things that happens is when we get someone referring us a publicly traded company. Since we don't just interview publicly traded companies, we interview barbecue companies too, apparently. But this company here, Envoy Medical, we got the CEO, Brent Lucas, coming in just a second. And we're going to talk about hearing health and hearing loss, which is something that I know you and I, who've had headphones on for our entire life.
I suffer from it.
Are musicians. We got in-ears. And it's something, and I try to switch mine back and forth because I know there's going to be a day when I'm not just saying what, Mary, because I'm ignoring you. I'm actually saying what because I can't hear you.
I do it all the day long.
Yeah.
I have bad hearing.
What?
So let's talk to Brent Lucas. Brent Lucas is the CEO. Brent, how are you, sir? Thank you for coming along. We appreciate you taking the time to come out and be on the air with us and suffer through the beginning of this program. But great to see you, man. Let's talk about let's talk about hearing health. It's something we don't think about until it's almost like, remember when you got reading glasses? Some of you are too young for reading glasses, but it's the day of reckoning is coming, Greg Todorov, when it's going to be.
You told me this, and it literally happened the following week.
Did it really?
My arm wasn't long enough.
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Brent, is that the same thing with hearing loss? All of a sudden it's there, it wasn't there before?
Really depends on the situation. I think for some people it is something you're born with, obviously. So some children are born hard of hearing or have profound deafness. Other people lose it throughout their life because of sound exposure. And then some people do wake up and all of a sudden find out that they've had sudden hearing loss. So it's all over the gamut, so to speak.
Hey, Brent, much like when your eyesight goes, that's because of rods and cones and all that good stuff in your eyes. Is it a deterioration within the ear mechanism, eardrum, all the smaller bones that causes most?
What he's really asking is, does booze cause hearing loss?
If I keep pouring bourbon in my ear, will it help?
Does eating too many Funyuns and Bako Bits cause hearing loss? No, it's actually a good question.
I hope not. Yeah, no, I would tell you that it really depends on the type of hearing loss, but the most common form of hearing loss is called sensory neural hearing loss, and that is where your cochlea, which is sort of your inner ear, it's the business end of your hearing loss, that has these little hair cells in there, and as they die off or get damaged, that can lead to hearing loss. That's the most common form of hearing loss. So yes, as you listen to too many rock concerts, wear your AirPods too long, like I do. I fall asleep with my AirPods at night. Probably doing some damage to my hearing loss, frankly.
What about the volume of the TV? Because my parents were older and had the volume so loud, and now I'm the same. My kids have it at 25, and I'm like, you got to crank that upwards of 40 because I cannot hear it.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty. I need whatever you got going on. I need it.
And that's why you're here, Brent. So. Hey, Brent. By the way, Brent's company is publicly traded under the stock symbol COCH on NASDAQ. It's Envoy Medical. Talk about your solutions, because those who suffer My father is 96 years old, God bless him, and if I talk to him on the phone, he's got hearing devices, and he's a pistol on the phone. But in public, because there's ambient noise, and I know, Brent, you're very familiar with what I'm about to say here. Ambient noise, he may as well be in a box. Because if there's any sort of ambient noise out there, including in a restaurant, plates tinkling, or it's your home, the water's running, even the TV in the background. Talk about your solution, though, because my dad would rather suffer in silence than be a burden, which I think is just tragic.
Sure. So we have two devices. We have a fully implanted active middle ear device. It's called the Esteem. That's been FDA approved since 2010. And that device picks up the sound from the ear. So we don't use any external microphone. So you talk about your dad being in a restaurant, ambient noise. One of the problems with hearing aids that so many people are familiar with is they pick up all of the sound in the environment and kind of amplify everything at the same level. But our device picks up the sound through the ear, so you get the natural benefit. I always point to our big floppy thing on the side of our heads. Those are called a pinna. They were designed, or they were evolved in a way to work with your brain, to pick up human speech, to pick up noise, and then work with your brain. Just like we both hear, or we both see with two eyes, we hear with two ears. And our brain was developed to hear through that. So when you can leverage the ear, which is what we're known for, that is our sort of secret sauce. We pick up the sound through the ear and then leverage that to deliver the therapy to the cochlea, which you see there is that snail-shaped thing. That's basically the end of your hearing nerve, which is what picks up the sound.
Brent Lucas, the CEO of Envoy Medical, their NASDAQ ticker symbol COCH. Brent, one of the favorite things we like to do with my dad is when he have his hearing aids in, is just to sit there and talk to him and go, and he's always going like that.
That is evil.
It totally is evil. Is there anything you can do to improve ear health before you get to the point where I'm calling you and saying, Brent, I give up, let's go, I want my hearing back?
Sure, and I'll tell you a funny story is when I tell people I work in the hearing industry, the first thing I always get is, what was that? And I fall for it all the time.
What was that?
And I work for a hearing company. So the answer is yes, you can do some things to help your hearing health. If you're younger, you should be wearing ear protection pretty much in any loud environment. So if your job or you go to a loud concert, you should always be wearing some sort of ear protection. And then there's also some drugs. So it's called ototoxicity. So there are some drugs that can actually harm your hearing. So be mindful of which drugs those are. Painkillers, for example, certain chemo drugs can do more harm than to your ear.
I real quickly. So what you have resolved for me, as I'm looking online here at your stuff, is that my dad would suddenly not have to deal with just one encode, decode sort of arrangement. You've been able to bifurcate or even trifurcate in some levels. My in-ears show several different drivers in here, where it's a bass driver, a mid driver, a music driver. I know it's not a musical sort of a device, but you've been able to separate out spectrum, it seems, by way of a bio device.
Yeah, the beauty of our device is that it's working with your ear. So we don't have to rely on a microphone. We don't have to rely on artificial microphones picking up the sound. We rely on the ear. Now, we do process that signal, so it's not a perfect analog, but we do process that signal for the patient. But really what we've been able to do is give a person a way of hearing without being tied to it. So, you see somebody with a hearing aid or a traditional cochlear implant with a big external device, they're tied to that all day long. Your hearing loss is 24 hours a day. Your hearing solution should also be 24 hours a day. One of the things that people don't think about is the single mother at home who can't hear her child cry at night because she has to take off her hearing device. Our device is with you all day, every day, and that's really what sets us apart from everyone else.
Now, Brent, are these covered by insurance? I see something called the Hearing Device Clarification Act, because it seems like maybe they're not covered yet, which seems ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. I'll start there. Yes, the first device, the Esteem device, is not currently covered by Medicare. Medicare calls this a hearing aid, which it is not. This is a hearing implant. And there are other hearing implants that are covered. So we're working towards getting this covered and hopeful that CMS and folks in Congress and maybe the administration, the current one or the incoming one, will help us get this passed. Essentially what Our devices are for when hearing aids are no longer good enough for you. When hearing aids aren't working for you, you can't hear well enough with them, or maybe they're not conducive to your lifestyle for a particular reason. But for example, let's say you have bad eyesight and you can't change the hearing aid batteries and you need something with you all the time. This is a perfect example of when our device could be something that you need. So we're pushing that. We have a bill in the House and a bill in the Senate. And hopefully, an act of Congress is probably harder to predict than an act of God, but we're hopeful that things will come along.
Honestly, I need to follow up on this because we're going to get a million emails that this is going to end up being a public service.
Well, Brent, the bottom line is we all have older parents, older friends, and stuff that all deal with it. So yeah, we're hitting the tip of the iceberg with you. He's Brent Lucas, CEO of Envoy Medical, NASDAQ ticker sign COCH. Brent, appreciate it. We'll get you back on soon. We are inside the Lock 100 studios. Wherever you're watching and wherever you're listening, thanks for being with us. Coming to you from sunny Southern California. It is the Big Biz Show. I am Costa, Lumberjack Man, Barrett Godwin.
No.
Brawny.
Dinty Moore Man.
Greg Todorov, and of course, Sully.
There's Mormons and there's Dinty Mormon. I think since we're still celebrating your birthday week and we're going into Thanksgiving, which is basically Mike's giving.
Pretty much.
This is your time. This is the most wonderful time of the year. It's the most
wonderful time of the year.
Not Christmas. It's the feed.
I love Thanksgiving.
I know
Thanksgiving, and it's kind of getting shuffled off to BFE, but it's just that cool.
Did I tell you about our Thanksgiving dinner pants commercial?
Yes.
Chris Castillo, our producer. Chris, could you just Google?
She's wearing them right now.
Thanksgiving dinner, stovetop Thanksgiving dinner pants, because I'd like to on the next program air the Thanksgiving dinner pants promo for Mike, because we may have to do another commercial this year.
Why not?
Because you don't need regular pants on Thanksgiving. You need Thanksgiving dinner pants, which by the way have a fold-over waistband that folds back up to catch the stuffing.
Genius. Hello.
Oh my gosh.
There they are.
Yeah, Thanksgiving dinner pants. There. Enjoy Thanksgiving with Stovetop Thanksgiving dinner pants. Oh, that's us. That was us. Yeah, that was ours. It was good. We had those made. You love those, don't you? Hey, RJ Tesi is back. He's the CEO of Inmune Bio. Inmune Bio. I got a chance to talk to his whole team yesterday and just learn a little bit more about what these guys are doing. It's a really, really interesting company. They are publicly traded under the stock symbol INMB, Idaho Nancy Mark Bravo. And I'll tell you, we're talking about Alzheimer's again. And I know that I bring up my 96-year-old father and I bring up my 85-year-old mother. And I don't think that they're going down that road, but I do see some signs in my mom of potentially, an aged brain there. And we spoke to RJ about 6 months ago, then we spoke to him just a few weeks ago, and they've got 3 new drugs that have been approved for Alzheimer's disease, and they didn't really get a hero's welcome. So I want to talk a little bit about that and everything else going on. RJ, thanks for taking the time out today. I know I've stolen a lot of your time this week already, but it's great to see you again, man.
Great, thanks. How's my hair look? I got it specially done for
Beautiful.
Yeah, I love it when you only need a washcloth to comb your hair.
Yeah.
Hey, RJ, talk about that because you guys target neuroinflammation as a cause of Alzheimer's disease. You came out with 3 drugs. The FDA hit a home run there and didn't get the hero's welcome. We talked about it a little bit last time. One more time, what do you think it's going to take to get people to get the aha moment there?
Yeah, I think you use a good term there. They did not get a hero's welcome, and really it's because the results, although positive, weren't as exciting as people wanted. People, particularly people with the disease, but more importantly, the people that actually care for those, whether they be the clinical teams or the caregivers, they want something that's going to stop the disease in its track. And what they were given by these drugs is drugs that slow the disease, and they're also a little bit difficult to manage. So we really got a couple important bits of information. Number one, amyloid, which is kind of the hallmark of Alzheimer's disease and what these drugs go after, is not the only solution. It's not even the solution. It's just part of the solution. And the second thing, it was clear that patients and the caregivers and their families are not going to accept anything less than something that stops the disease in their tracks. And I think that should be now the goal of those of us in the business of developing drugs for this disease, is safely stopping the disease in its tracks. And I think Immune Bio is well on its way to doing that. So,
Dr. Tesi, is things like sundowner syndrome or the angst and the anger that a lot of times we see with Alzheimer's patients, is this something that is also starting to be curbed?
So you bring up some interesting points. So the sundowning is something that really occurs with more advanced disease. And I will say that right now, all of us in the industry, including Immune Bio, focus on milder forms of the disease, because by the time people get to the point that they're sundowning, in fact, that they've lost a lot of, shall we say, brain cells, and it's really hard to recover them.
Hey, RJ, real quick, let me interrupt real fast. Can you, just for our audience, define sundowning real quickly? I want to make sure everybody understands.
Sundowning is what happens. It's usually patients where they get quite cranky and difficult to manage, and even can get aggressive and quite nasty. And it often occurs late in the evening when they're heading off to, when you're trying to get them to bed. It's not as much related to change in light levels as a change in, it's time for them to move from one place to another.
Oh, okay.
So it's been they've taken the word sundowning, but I really want to go back to the point about these behavioral issues that were mentioned. Things like aggression, depression, sleep disorders. These are part of the disease very early on, and in fact, even in patients with not overt cognitive decline, they can, their disease can be manifest as something like suddenly, where before, they spilled milk and they went, oh, I spilled milk. Suddenly it becomes a major big deal. So these changes in behavior are part of the disease, and they are particularly related to neuroinflammation. Neuroinflammation is a real driver of these kind of behavioral abnormalities. You see it in Alzheimer's, you see it in depression, you see it in diseases like PTSD.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, well, what sort of things cause that neuroinflammation? Do we know?
So we do know a lot about this. So I'm going to tell you something. You're going to go, oh, really? The most important thing is age. It's a disease that correlates with age. And like you said, oh, really? But let me tell you why age is important. What happens is, as part of our natural aging process, cells are turning over. So the cells we were born with in our brain or in our heart or in our liver aren't the same cells we have when we're 60 or 70. Right. The natural history is they turn over and they undergo what's called senescence. That means they shrink away and then they're replaced by a fresh new cell. But when they shrink away, the immune system is supposed to come and gobble them up. Take out the garbage, so be it. The problem is, as we get age, the immune system gets less active, and we begin to leave the garbage around. It's kind of like your husband. He won't take out the damn garbage, right? And it becomes a mess. And it becomes a mess in the patient. And so that causes inflammation. So number one is age, and it's due to weakening of the immune system that occurs naturally as we age. I'm only 29. So
I know you're fantastic. The stock ticker INMB. And of course, you can go to the website, Mike?
The website is Inmune Bio, INMUNEBio.com.
There you go. RJ, thanks so much, bud. We'll see you next time. Unbelievable. I love how he just puts it out for the rest of us. That does it for us today. More Big Biz coming up tomorrow. See you then.